You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona. With me always, my good friends.
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas, Arizona. I'm confused. Am I in Texas or in Arizona? I'm in Arizona.
Yeah, he's still visiting Arizona.
I should say AK Mike from Texas and Arizona.
There you go. That's it.
Or not anything at all. Just say AK Mike.
There you go. And I'm AK Mike in Texas, not in Alaska. And now you're visiting Arizona.
Or you could say on probation.
On probation.
From Texas.
From Texas.
Probation. Well,
wait, put the gun
allowed
to
to change,
so
go across state lines.
That's true. Yeah, he did cross state lines, so he's wanted it.
I wasn't carrying a gun when I crossed state lines, just to be clear.
I'm carrying one now because I'm
no.
Now that we're here. Well, we were talking last time about our trip over to Sun Valley Flyers, and we were talking about how gusty it was, and then how we flew the L-39. What we got to was the fundraiser, and so I'd like to kind of pick that up and talk a little bit about the fundraiser. And so anyway, kind of picking up where we left off, we flew the L-39 through all the batteries, and finally called it. We landed the last time. I turned it back into the wind to track back, and one of the landing gear looked like it was a little
bit wonky. Yeah.
So
well, we were struggling to get the landing gear to retract properly.
That's correct. It wasn't retracting very, very well, and so anyway, I brought it over to us. I picked it up and realized that it had come unglued from the whole landing gear assembly had come unglued from the foam.
So, in case you were not listening carefully or didn't listen to the previous podcast, I did not land that plane during the whole time. Again, want to make it very
you are
clear.
absolved from all responsibility.
Now, having said that, the landings that I had on this were not terrible. I mean, I don't think
they weren't.
They
really.
weren't bad enough to rip the gear out. I think the gear was when I crashed it at the electric festival,
and just never really fixed it.
It probably loosened it, and I didn't really realize it. And once again, that's probably one of those safety pre-flight things. The gear went up and down like it was supposed to, but after the crosswinds and kind of touching down and.
So this is in the area of make sure you check your plane before you fly it.
Make sure you check it.
Luckily, there was no safety issues.
Nope. So I mean, it could have been. I could have sucked the gear up and it would just fell out and been hanging.
That would have been interesting.
I would
like to watch you land that. I mean, I think you could have, but would have been interesting.
Yeah, I probably would have done a gear up landing and just let it trail behind.
Yeah,
the
that's
gear.
fair. And then go pick up the wires as it pulled out the rest of it.
Rips off the wire.
Yeah,
exactly. So anyway, it actually ended we had one more battery to go. I was gonna, let Mike fly it out, or I was gonna fly it, whatever the case it is. And as it turned out, we just kind of called it quits. But we did get to go. We went and grabbed the fundraiser, and Mike's like, "Hey, we should fly this one." So we kind of tested it out. I had two 22 milliamp 4-cell batteries for that airplane. And so as we were walking out, I told Mike, I said, I haven't flown this one in a minute, right? It's been a while.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, I don't think I've flown it this year at all. Maybe even last year. Maybe.
No, you didn't bring it to the festival.
Yeah,
you didn't fly it.
Yeah, so it's been a little bit since I've flown the fundraiser, but we decided, hey, what the heck, we'll take it out there. So we did a full pre-flight on that one. Made sure everything twice actually. Made sure everything was connected. I threw that 2200 milliamp 4-cell in there. Gave it a run up. Sounds good. And Mike looks at me and goes, "So are we going to launch this inverted or not?" Because that's how we launched the fundraiser.
It really does launch better inverted.
It does.
Yeah.
And so now we're talking about which way the wind's coming, because the wind is actually coming from crosswind from our backs. So if he's going to launch it into the wind, he would be launching it inverted over my shoulder.
I'm good with that.
And into the pits.
Of course you are, Jay. You like to fly behind you. I like it.
So anyway, I told him, I was like, no, let's just do it, kind of at a crosswind. And so he's trying to figure out.
Basically, we did a downwind launch is what we did.
Yeah, we did. We did. Well, it was more of a crosswind, but kind of out over the field.
Yeah, it was out of.
And so anyway, we're trying to get the angle right. Do you want me to do it at this angle, 180 degrees nose up, or do you want me to do a 40-degree nose up? And I said, "Well, what I want you to do is walk around and not launch it over the fence because the last last thing I need is for you to drop that thing and have the tail catch on the fence and then just dog her right in the ground." He's like, "Good idea." So we walked around out of the pilot box where he was going to launch it out into the runway
It
environment.
would have been fine.
Yeah, yeah. I just had visions of that thing just going nose.
Again, not my plane, not my worry.
Yeah, so he didn't care. But it did launch great.
It
you
did.
know,
Well, it's funny too when when it launched. It did. Of course, it just jumps out of your hands because it's got that four-cell in it. And as soon as he hit the air, the crosswind just blew it.
Yeah.
It vaned into the wind, but Mike's got control of it. It's just no big deal. But at the same time, I was like, I watched that thing rotate. It just yawed
Yeah.
terribly into the wind. And quite frankly, it was probably smart the way we did fly it because when it yawed over, it was now going down the runway
Right.
instead of over our heads, I guess.
All right. Yeah, it was just enough that when he launched it, the nose just kind of weather vaned, and then and as I rolled it up right, it's now facing right down the runway instead of across us, where I was going to have to fight it inverted and over the pits, which I didn't
Forget
really
it.
want to do. Yeah, I didn't want to do that.
He's a good pilot, but we don't need to stress him out.
Yeah. So anyway, I got I got upstairs and kind of leveled it out and was playing with it a little bit, and then right as I got turned around. I went to go give it some throttle and got this huge screech. Oh yeah, and the motor quit. So now I'm luckily because I'm going downwind, so I got some pretty good speed, and so I go to idle thrust, and then kind of gave it a little bit more, and I could hear the prop spinning up. So I know that there's a timing issue because I've been flying that thing on
Yeah,
a
that's a timing issue.
but I did get it where I was slowly building up the RPMs, and I got it back around into the wind, and then as I was getting more and more advancement on the throttle, it started picking up speed. Well, going into the wind, it didn't do that, but coming downwind, it would, which was the really
Right, because it's over speeding. The prop is over speeding.
yeah,
going
probably
downwind,
so.
right?
Because it doesn't have the wind in its face.
Sure.
So I went ahead and let it go downwind and turned it around, and then I was able to hammer on the throttle. And when that thing with that 4-cell, I forgot how fast that thing is.
Well, it's funny because we were there and there was maybe 2 or 3 jet dudes that were still there. And he starts going around that. And of course, they heard the noise, so they kind of turned their heads to watch what was going on. And then he's like racing down the runway. And these are all guys who fly jets. And they're like, whoa, that thing is so fast. And so I thought that was kind of interesting to have them give that kind of statement just because.
It's all relative, baby.
Yeah, well. And two, the thing is really small, so it is sketching through the sky pretty quick, right? And unlike the airplanes, even though the airplanes are going, much faster likely than that little plane, it just looks slower because those planes are so much bigger, right?
Yeah.
But that's crazy.
It was pretty funny because they're all like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
man, you got enough
fast."
throttle there,
Yeah,
Mike?
exactly.
Holy crap, that thing is hauling the mail." And I was like, "Yeah, it's a fast little guy." But so anyway, I found a good throttle setting for it, and we flew it around, 3 minutes or so, and then I brought it in for a landing, and of course it doesn't have landing gear, so I had to skid it in on the.
How you do it on the runway, right?
Yeah.
How come it's just not like a little nub of foam?
Or plastic, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't have it though. It's
So
for aerodynamics, I guess.
No.
no, he means from
Mike,
scraping it down.
meaning that
like
Mike,
standing
he
the
lives
bottom
in
of it with the tarmac.
Yeah.
Is that
right.
what you're saying?
You live in he lives in sandpaper.
Yeah.
The whole state is
No,
just nothing
no,
but
I
sandpaper.
mean, really, it doesn't affect
just different
that
grits.
because he's not pushing it on the ground. He's just sort of skipping. It really was more of a I think it hit twice and that's it, and it stopped right away.
Yeah.
So it's not like it had.
You don't. What do you have on the bottom? Do you have anything on the bottom of it?
No,
No.
it's just foam.
Really? And you're landing on the runway, that's at least 80 grit.
Again,
And
At least 80 grit.
it touched
Yeah.
and then bounced up a little bit and then touched again and stopped instantly. So it wasn't like he was just like sanding it on the bottom. It really wasn't.
I don't know.
So
It
so
just
the
seems
good
that
news
place
is
is just real rough on it.
well, yeah, but I mean
It is, but
that little $100 airplane has a Demon Cortex in it, so it's it's got a $400, $300
control board,
gyro, the gyro in it. But at the same time, because I use it as a receiver and a gyro at the same time. But yeah, basically you just hold it off the ground until the airplane is just ready to
Drop,
stall.
and then you put it down.
And then when it stalls, it just goes plink and sits right on the ground. Now, if I was to come in and actually put it on the ground like you would like the L-39 with the wheels on it, yeah, it would scream down the runway and skid itself to a stop. But you just have to hold it in ground effect until it gets to ready
Okay.
to quit.
Okay.
And then you'll see it start to drop, and you just pitch up a little bit more, and it just plops right on the ground. And it does have a plastic nose, if you remember that. That whole side is plastic. So because of the way it sits and the gyro kind of keeps it wings level, then it does touch that piece of plastic, and that's what kind of causes it. So there are some scrapes underneath it, and there is a little one or two little burn marks on the foam as far as, but they're very minor.
Marks.
Well, yeah, they're not burned, but they're black because of the tarmac's black, right? The runway is
Right.
black, so it just leaves a little skid mark on it. But I think Mike was like, "Hey, are we gonna fly it again?" And I told him, I was like, "Well, it's 115 out here, and I don't want to burn up the." So, oh, that's what we did. I told him, I said I was nervous about the ESC because the electronic speed controller
Was really hot.
was really hot. I mean, like this thing, you couldn't hold your finger on it for more than a second or two. It was that hot.
So we wondered if it was, you said it was overspeeding the prop. We wondered if it was just controlling itself down because it got too hot.
Right. Like we were overamping it, and it got heated up, and then it would shut itself
down. So we weren't sure exactly what was causing the issue. We haven't tried it indoors.
Yeah. Well, the key is that it was making like a screeching noise.
Yeah.
Screeching.
Yeah.
And like something. It sounds like something busts loose, and then it screeches.
Exactly.
And typically that's when you are in the wrong gearing.
Right. Timing.
So it's the timing is off. So you just have to change the timing.
Well, I still was even if we change the timing, I don't necessarily that ESC that's in there is for a 2 to a 6 cell. So it's got a really big range on it.
No. But like I said, think of it more like, even though it's timing, but think of it like gears.
We're going to try to put it on a watt meter on it. We haven't done that yet to see if it's over watt.
Right. Even though it could be a 6 or 8 cell escape that's in there, if the timing is wrong, the gearing, that's why I said gearing. If the gearing is wrong, it's going to give you that screeching noise all the time. It doesn't matter, what grade of battery you have in there, or what cell of battery. If the timing's wrong, the timing's wrong, and you're going to hear about it. The motor's going to complain about it.
Yeah, and I understand that because I've had that happen before.
Right.
But when I had it happen before, I didn't burn myself on the ESC.
Right. So I just want to say to our listeners too, if you want to make comments about Jay using the word escape, please do.
Please do.
Because we're trying to break him of the habit. I know I still say it, so it's good that you catch us and make it's okay. Just to say, yeah, I got it, or just
I'm
some
a repeat offender. I can't help myself.
Yeah, you're a repeat.
I'll do it again.
I'll do it again too.
Yeah, because I know we do have a handful of listeners out there that just cringe whenever time we say it. They've posted before. So
yeah,
go on our go on the Facebook listeners group and post that. Tell Jay that he's
or on YouTube comments.
Yeah,
either
YouTube
way.
comments will be good too. That Jay can't remember.
He
what
needs
an
to
ESC.
learn.
He is all about negative reinforcement, so feel free to throw him under the bus.
Right.
I mean, he teaches negative reinforcement as a way to
That's
so
right.
Negative reinforcement is the key to air power. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
to air superiority.
Right. Exactly. It's the key to air superiority is negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is the key to air superiority.
So one of the things I thought was funny, Mike, when we first got to the field, was we walked up and we were just saying hi to people, and it just so happens that Tony was flying his jet, and
or about to. He was
about to. Whatever. Yeah, it was over there in the box, and then we hear this. Well, yeah, he's part of the club, and all of a sudden we see Tony look over us. He goes, "Yeah, he's right there." In fact, and I guess he was talking to this guy we met. His name was Jeff.
Yep, Jeff McCarthy.
Yeah, Jeff McCarthy, and so Jeff was surprised to meet Mike right there in the flesh. And so it was kind of an interesting thing.
It was interesting.
Yeah. So tell him what.
Yeah, because we had just walked up and we just kind of caught the tail end of the conversation. Like Mike said, he's like, "Oh, he's a member of our club." And then when he turned around, I just happened to be standing there, and he said, "That's him right there." And so I was like, I didn't do it. I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, Mike, he said, Jeff listens to your podcast. And I was like, oh. And so I introduced Mike. And I said, hey, this is AK Mike. He goes, from the hills of Texas? And I go, no, that's the other guy, Jay. I said, no, this is AK Mike. So it was hilarious because Jeff goes, where's your long johns? That's what he said.
That's
so
the
he's
first
obviously
thing
been listening.
Clearly you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt.
Shorts and a t-shirt. Where's
like,
your long john?
What's up with that?
So it was kind of funny that, obviously he'd been listening to our podcast. And so anyway, we were kind of excited. We got to meet, one of our listeners, and he was kind of going through some of the episodes that we had talked to, and he was really excited about us being there. And he's like, oh, I got to show you something. So we went over to the table where he was, and he had one of those
Catalina?
Yeah, it's a PBY or Catalina, whatever you want to call it, but it's Dynamax, and they don't make them anymore. And we're gonna post some pictures on the on this episode, and I think we can get some up on our YouTube channel. But he had modified the absolute max.
So to go back to last week's name, he transmorgified this plane.
He did transmorgify. Yeah, that's true. Kind of tie in the two episodes.
Yeah, tie in there. Exactly. Yeah, like that.
But he was very excited about it, and so were we. And we were standing there as he was kind of giving us a tour of this little Dynamax. And so I'll post a picture of what it looks like. But the Dynamax is a float airplane, right? It's got a boat. It looks like a flying boat, and it's got these huge pontoons on the edge of the wings. And when we walked up there, I noticed
where are the pontoons?
That the pontoons were missing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I know this is, a PBY, but there's no pontoons. He says, oh, they're retractable. And I'm like
the real plane.
Yeah. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, they retract up. So the pontoons are now the wingtips. They bring up to the wingtips. They're painted orange. And I was looking at it. He goes, yeah, let me show you. And so then I looked down and I'm like, dude, this has landing gear on it. He's like, yeah, I added landing gear to it. And it's got steerable nose wheel and the whole deal, and lighting, and oh my gosh, he had modified the heck out of this thing. It was really amazing.
So how for his landing gear that he had, for landing on the runway, I assume
that is correct.
So tell me more about those. Are they waterproof? Can he take that and land in the water too, or how does that work?
So
we didn't test it.
Yeah, I don't know where he would test that in Arizona. Maybe if he poured some water out on the runway, it would be waterproof. But landing it in the lake,
it's unknown.
It's unknown. And next time I see him at the field, I will ask him if he's done that.
Okay.
But from my assessment, and Jeff, if you're listening, feel free to
just post
it or email us. And it's parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com or parkflyerpodcast at the listeners group. Or you can go to a YouTube channel and just post something there. But I don't know if he's landed it on water with the landing gear, but the landing gear is dual. What did he say it was? It's a dual structure. So it has like a leaf spring to give it
I saw those.
To give the leaf spring.
So right, the landing gear is outside the boat.
Correct.
Jay. It's outside the boat,
not inside. So he's attached it to the bottom of the boat.
Yes, it's waterproof because it's not inside the boat.
Correct.
Okay.
I
was thinking he built it so it was inside the boat and then came out.
No.
I was like,
no. It's not retractable.
That's next level stuff.
Yeah. No, it's not retractable. He just mounted this leaf spring.
Oh, okay.
And then he mounted these landing gear wheels, and then it's got
like shock
absorbers.
Yeah. What do they call? What's that called in the car?
Struts.
Leaf spring. Struts.
Yeah. So it's got a leaf string system and a strut system, which are little springs. So it works as like shock absorbers, so that when he lands it on the concrete,
it doesn't come.
It doesn't bounce around.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, then I was like, man, that is really cool landing gear. He was showing it to us, and we were kind of checking it out. And then he goes, yeah, check this out. And he set it down, and he takes there's a turret on the front. That's that little round turret on the front of the airplane. He lifts it off, and inside is a servo for the steerable nose gear.
Oh, okay.
So he cut that out, right?
Yeah, he cut it out. He augered it all out in there, and then he stuck a rod, and it was all bent, so that he could steer the nose wheel. And then he just put that cap. It was like a cap. He just twisted it back on, and it just sat right back down in there.
And then the one other thing he had on that one was he called it split flaps, but it wasn't really.
Yes.
Was it not really split flaps because the top part didn't flap up? It was just,
No,
but he had a
that
lower
is-
half. Is that
That is called
okay? I
foiler flaps.
close Fowler flaps.
Fowler.
Yeah. So
Like a bird fowl.
I thought split flaps were when they operated independently, top and bottom.
Okay, those are not split flaps. Those are called speed brakes.
Okay.
When you split a top and a bottom, so the top one is called a spoiler, and the bottom one is called a flap.
Okay.
So if it goes up, it's spoiler. If it goes down, it's a flap.
Okay.
When you split those into two, they create both a down drag and the lift portion of it.
Right.
And it splits it. And if you're on any kind of like a 3D airplane, that would be considered a speed brake because it'll slow you down.
Right.
And it'll pitch the nose over so that you're kind of, it's a drag, it creates
Yeah.
a drag. But his were actually truly split flaps. Now, I did ask Jeff, I said, well, did you cut the leading edge and drop the other flaps? He said no. He just added an extra piece of foam. He cut it the same as the length of the two flap space, and then he put
those flaps didn't operate. They were solid into the plane, so they didn't operate.
So the flaps themselves were marked on the airplane, but because Dynamax doesn't have flaps, it didn't work.
So he basically made a big long flap.
Correct. That was mounted up underneath the wing, and then it actually opened
up. It looks like it's part of the original flap.
It did. It was amazing.
It was cool the way it looked.
Great job. And then inside there, like he augered out some of the like when you drop the flap actually had a hinge on the inside of the flap, so that when it was closed, you never saw anything.
You couldn't even tell it was there.
You didn't even know it was a flap unless he pointed it out, or you looked at the trailing edge of the wing.
There's a little carbon.
You could see, there's a little carbon rod. You could see that, but when he dropped it, now you can see up into the flap, and he had mounted the servo and the servo arm up in the airplane so that it pushed out and then dropped the flaps.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the last modification he did was the lights, which were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He had upper and lower beacons. He had strobes on the tail and the two wings, and then he had
something in the top too.
Yeah, then he had.
that thing could have night flown.
Yeah, he could have flown it at night. It was amazing. Actually, I may be confusing that with the other airplane. He had another little like a Cherokee 6 looking airplane.
Oh, you think maybe that was on the Cherokee?
And, one of them. I got so excited about the lighting because we were like, oh man, you should take that thing out, night flying. But it was a fun time talking to Jeff. It was a great guy. We really appreciate his patronage. Listen to our website. Our podcast, and he gave us some suggestions. He thought we were really good, and he liked our comedic interchanges. So that was really good to hear some feedback from them that we were doing a good job. And finally, Jeff is in Mike's court.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Yeah.
Well, he's stuck on the 2200 milliamp.
Oh, right. That's right. He said, "Yeah, I'd stay with one kind of battery," and I was like, "Yes, my brother."
He had a common interest.
That sounds like we need to make a new T-shirt.
Maybe.
That would be kind of funny.
How about this? How about this? I'm going to trademark this. I'm 22. Are you?
22 are you? I'm 22. Are you? Yeah, it was funny because he's like, I'm really fighting the 6-cell.
Yeah,
man.
He's like, if I just need a 4-cell, then I just or whatever. Whatever he said. He said, I just put batteries together.
Yeah.
Right now, it's what I do is I put batteries together. He goes, but I'm really fighting the 6-cell. I can't. I don't want to make a conglomeration of batteries. It's like, well, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, it was a good time, and actually, he did fly one of them, but I can't remember which one it was. I think he flew the
one with the lights.
Yeah, the Cherokee or whatever it was with lights.
Then we saw the Green Bay play too.
Yeah, there was another guy that showed up. I didn't get his name, and I can't remember what his name is, but he had a little like trainer airplane, and it was all Green Bay Packers. And
oh, really?
Big old G on it, and
big
everything.
G and everything. So anyway, I went back. I go, "You're not a Packers fan, are you?" He goes, "Nope."
But I noticed he didn't crash the plane, so he's got something going on.
Yeah, that's true. It is.
Yeah, there you go. That's funny.
But so other than that, the turbine, kind of finishing out our day. The turbines were great. Meeting Jeff was great. I think Tony flew his a couple of times.
Chatted up Gary and Greg.
Gary and a couple of guys that were out there. And kind of just talked all the way around. I got some pictures of another L39 like mine and what the modifications he did on his, and so we can kind of look further into that and get mine actually going now that the shop is. I'm kind of catching up with the house now that we moved in. I know it's been a couple months, but I finally got majority of the stuff inside fixed, and we're ready to kind of on the downward swing where I can actually start working on stuff and get a little time off from work and be able to catch back up. So Mike's been helping around the house and
Change the
building some
thermistor.
stuff. Yep, we changed the
Free
thermistor.
labor.
Yeah, changed the thermistor in our water heater so you could have hot water for a
Made
shower.
partial wall. Moved a safe. That's what we did this morning.
We did move a
moved
safe.
a safe. That was fun.
Yeah,
He's like, it's
Amazing
only
you do it.
650 pounds, Mike. It'll be fine. I was like, really? He goes, I got
and
these.
you did with the PVC pipe tubes, right?
Nope.
No, we did this. He has some safe wheels basically, and you just the problem is you got to lift it up a little bit. And Mike was the one who did that, thankfully. And I just had to risk my fingers getting crushed. That's all I had to do.
Yeah, and I know we're short of time and it's almost time to go. But the bad news is Jay last time when we moved it into the house had to do it with those PVC wheels.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, they're sitting in there right next to it, but we had to lay them down and then push it on and rip one to the next one. We moved it all over the place.
It worked. No, what I was ready to say is it works surprisingly well. I didn't think it was going to work that well, but it works really well because you don't have to lift the safe up that high. You kick it underneath, and then you just get a couple in a row and just keep moving them, and you can move the safe around
like ball
easily.
Bearings?
Yeah. It's almost just like ball bearings.
Yeah.
So when I was not a small child, but when I was a teenager, I stayed out late. So that was
working in the coal mine.
Exactly. When I was a teenager, it was always troublesome to come home late at night because we had a very large upright piano that would move around the house on its own. And when you came home, it may not be in the same location as it was when you left earlier in the afternoon. And it would have been,
maybe in front of the door?
No, but it could have been instead of up against this wall, it could have been that wall. And where I entered into the garage, it was kind of
you might run into it.
You may just
you might actually hit some keys.
Yes, and then wake your parents up and be in big trouble.
Okay.
And we never could figure out for the life of us because my mother weighs about 90 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah,
She's about 5'2".
Yeah.
My father was away, and yet that piano, with no one home, would transmortify itself from one side of the house to the other side of the house. Which that's not the right term, I don't think.
I think your mom was sleep pushing the piano.
Yeah, well, I don't know because my mom literally is this tiny, tiny lady. Jay knows.
Yeah, but on them wheels, those things move pretty good.
Well, it wasn't until I actually became an adult and was trying to move stuff around in my own house.
Yeah.
That my mother came over one day and went, "Oh, you got to do it this way," and she grabbed these four PVC tubes that are about half inch, and they're schedule 40. She just laid them down. She moved them underneath, lifted up with her little shoulder, stuck it in there, and rolled it all the way down.
Yeah.
And I was like, the light bulb finally came on how this piano got moved around my mom's house without anybody home.
There we go.
Because she'd moved around by herself.
That's
it was nothing.
Like it was nothing.
And it really did. I mean, once that 650-pound safe gets up on those little rollers, it's like ball bearings. You just push it. And it doesn't take any effort at all to push it. It just rolls. Now, if you get it moving, which Jay did, it will do some damage to the house. It will punch holes in the wall.
Is that why that one line is on the wall back there?
No, I don't have no idea. I think that's just in the drywall. But yeah, it's you don't want to jump out. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about here.
No, it's just one of the. We have the texture on our walls is what they call Santa Fe texture. So it's like a 80-20. It's not a skip trowel because they do internal.
No, this is a full on.
Yeah, it looks like a line, but it's just where the trowel.
Oh, I see.
So it leaves a mark. And
that's just her blah skip trowel.
Yeah. I don't know. We got off topic somehow, and Jeff's gonna remind us that we need to stay on topic. So.
Stay on topic.
That was one of the things he said that he liked about our podcast was that we get right to the topic and don't BS too much. So, unfortunately, our time is up, and we hope you enjoyed this session, finishing up our day. Mike, we're gonna go fly tomorrow, so 2 weeks from now we'll talk about our park flying. We'll go out and hang out with the guys, and maybe we'll maiden the 3D Aero Ventures park.
That'll be fun.
Cover that.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Well, I'm excited.
Looking forward to that. And Michael from Arizona.
From Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AQ Mike in Arizona from Texas.
There you go.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.